The Quill Project is a digital humanities project for studying the history of a negotiated text, using the records of the processes that have created constitutions, treaties, or legislation.
But what does that actually mean?
So what exactly is a negotiated text? A negotiated text is an important text that goes through a revision process. An example of this from everyday life that most people would be familiar with is when an author writes a book. They go through several drafts before they get to the final version that is published.
This is somewhat similar to what goes on in Congress with legislation, but it's a much more complicated process.
What we do here at the center is analyze primary sources and present them in a visual way, making them easier to understand. An example of this would be analyzing the official journal of Congress and documenting what happens each day. We then present these proceedings in a visual format. One of the projects that we're working on right now is the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution. That is known as the Women's Suffrage Amendment, or it's the amendment that gave women the right to vote. Here in the year 2020, it has a lot of significance. 2020 is the 100-year anniversary of the ratification of the amendment. It's also very important for the state of Utah because the first woman to vote in a state election was Sarah Young in Salt Lake City. Because the debates surrounding the 19th Amendment spanned 41 years in Congress, we won't be able to get it all modeled for this 100-year celebration. What we have decided to do is model the first proposal in Congress and the last proposal in Congress. That last proposal is the amendment as you know it today. We also wanted to put a little spin on it to not only make it stand out from all 19th Amendment research, but to also localize it a bit here in Utah. So we will be including the Edmonds Tucker Act. That was an act of Congress that was initially set out to abolish polygamy within the Utah Territory, but what that also did was took away the right to vote from women. In the territory, women had had the right to vote for 17 years before the passage of the act. It shows a very interesting contrast between states' rights and national rights.
Models like what you would see in Quill are very important, especially today. One of our goals here at the Center for Constitutional Studies is to help people further their constitutional literacy or to gain a better understanding of constitutional principles. What the Quill Project does is it takes the drafting of the Constitution or constitutional amendments and gathers all of the information on them, all of the primary sources, and puts them in one place so that users or students or researchers can better understand what exactly went on to create those binding pieces of legislation that impact us every day.